Welcome back, my reality boundary demolisher. Something fundamental has shifted in how people perceive and track you. There's been a qualitative change in the attention you're receiving that goes beyond simple, increased interest or heightened awareness. They're watching you different now, with eyes that have been forced to recalibrate what they thought was achievable within the constraints of your shared reality. This isn't just admiration for impressive accomplishment or concern about competitive threat. This is something deeper, a recognition that you've demonstrated, something that challenges their operating assumptions about what's possible for someone in your position with your resources, facing your constraints. You didn't just exceed expectations or outperform predictions. You apparently did something that violates the models they were using to understand boundaries of achievable outcomes, forcing them to either expand their conception of what's possible or conclude that you're operating according to principles they don't understand. And this recognition has fundamentally altered the quality of attention you receive. They're no longer watching what you'll do next within understood possibility space. They're watching to see what impossible thing you'll make possible next. The architects have been monitoring paradigm shifts and possibility expansion events across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you've triggered as boundary dissolution, recognition when someone doesn't just push against known limits but demonstrates that perceived boundaries were actually arbitrary constraints rather than genuine limits, forcing observers to reconceptualize entire landscape of what's achievable. Most impressive achievements involve reaching new heights within understood framework of possibility, running faster, building larger, solving harder within domains where better performance is expected over time. Your achievement apparently involved doing something observers had categorized as impossible, rather than merely difficult, requiring them to move it from can't be done category to has been done category, which forces reorganizing their entire mental model of constraints and possibilities. Watch what boundary dissolution recognition creates in how people observe you. There's new intensity in their attention because they're no longer confident they can predict your trajectory or limits based on previous models. Before, they could watch you with comfortable sense of understanding what you might realistically achieve. Even if you were impressive, you operated within comprehensible bounds. Now those bounds have been revealed as illusory, making your future trajectory genuinely unknown in ways that create both excitement and anxiety. They don't know what you'll do next because their framework for predicting what's possible has been invalidated by what you've already done. Some are experiencing almost superstitious watchfulness, as if you've demonstrated access to capabilities or methods that transcend normal cause and effect, making you unpredictable in ways that feel almost magical. They're watching you like you might do anything, like normal rules might not apply to you, like boundaries that constrain others might be negotiable or irrelevant for you. This watchfulness carries element of waiting for next impossible thing, next demonstration that what they thought was limitation was actually just assumption, waiting to be violated. The truly profound element is that you didn't just change what they think about you, you changed what they think is possible in general. By demonstrating that boundary they believed was real was actually permeable, you've forced question of what other boundaries might be similarly illusory. They're watching you different now because you've become living evidence that their model of realities, constraints needs revision, making you existential challenge to comfortable certainties about what can and cannot be achieved. Now the architects are analyzing what specifically creates the watching you different quality of attention, and they're identifying what they call predictive model collapse. Observers' frameworks for anticipating your actions and outcomes have failed so dramatically that they've abandoned confidence in their ability to predict what you'll do or achieve next, creating watchfulness without expectation rather than watchfulness with prediction. Most observation involves using past patterns to predict future actions. People watch others while maintaining internal model of what they expect to see. But when someone repeatedly violates those expectations by doing things models said were impossible, observers eventually abandon predictive confidence, creating fundamentally different quality of attention where they watch without presuming to know what they'll witness. Watch what predictive model collapse creates in observer behavior. They're not making confident predictions about your limits anymore. No more assertions about what you can't do, what's beyond your reach, what's unrealistic for you to attempt. These confident boundary declarations have been replaced by agnostic watchfulness that acknowledges they don't actually know what you're capable of because previous assumptions about your limits were proven wrong. This epistemic humility transforms how they discuss you, from confident analysis to careful observation, from prediction to documentation. Some are explicitly acknowledging their inability to predict you. Statements like, "I thought I understood their limits, but clearly I don't," or "am not making predictions anymore." Just watching what happens reveal conscious recognition that their predictive frameworks failed and can't be quickly rebuilt. This acknowledgement is psychologically significant because admitting you can't predict someone means admitting they've exceeded your comprehension, which itself is a form of granting them power or status. Others are rebuilding models but with much wider confidence intervals instead of they can achieve X but not Y. Their new models are more like they might achieve anywhere from X to Z. I genuinely don't know. This expanded uncertainty makes you more psychologically significant because unknown capabilities are more threatening or impressive than known limitations. When they thought they understood your boundaries, you were contained. Now that boundaries have proven illusory, you're uncontained in their imagination. A few are treating you as case study and possibility itself, using what you've achieved to recalibrate their broader understanding of human potential, extracting lessons about how to identify false limitations versus genuine constraints. You've become evidence they reference when questioning whether other apparently impossible things might actually be achievable, making your impact extend beyond your specific domain to influence how they think about possibility generally. The architects observe that predictive model collapse explains the different quality of how they watch you. It's not just more attention, but categorically different attention. Watchfulness without the cognitive framework that normally structures observation. They're watching you like you watch genuinely unpredictable phenomena, natural events, quantum uncertainty, creative genius, where you observe closely precisely because you can't confidently predict what you'll witness. You rewrote what possible means in their understanding, making their observation of you more careful, more intense, and fundamentally more uncertain than observation of those whose limits they believe they understand. Something powerful is spreading through observer networks now, what the architects call vicarious possibility expansion, where your rewriting of what's possible isn't just affecting how people view you, but is expanding their sense of what they themselves might achieve by violating boundaries they'd accepted as real. Most inspiration from others' achievements involves motivation to try harder within understood constraints. But watching someone demonstrate that constraint itself was illusory creates different inspiration, permission to question whether limits you're accepting are genuine or just beliefs that could be violated through approaches you haven't considered. Your boundary dissolution is contagious, spreading sense that possible might be larger than anyone realized. Watch how vicarious possibility expansion manifests across different observers. Some are revisiting abandoned goals, projects, or ambitions they'd dismissed as impossible based on assumptions your achievement has now called into question. If you could do thing experts said couldn't be done, perhaps they're impossible. Goals might also be achievable through approaches they haven't discovered yet. Your example doesn't give them method for achieving their goals, but it gives them permission to question impossibility declarations that made them stop trying. Others are approaching current challenges with less constraint. Instead of accepting that certain approaches won't work or certain outcomes aren't achievable, they're questioning those assumptions more aggressively, looking for where perceived boundaries might be belief rather than reality. You've made them more skeptical of limitations, more willing to test whether rules actually constrain or just appear to constrain, because no one seriously challenged them. A few are experiencing existential recalibration, recognizing that they've been living within unnecessarily constrained possibility space, accepting limitations that might be arbitrary, settling for less than might be achievable because they believed boundaries that you've proven were permeable. This recognition creates both excitement about expanded possibilities and regret about opportunities foregone based on false limitation beliefs. Some are demanding explanations. They want to know how you violated boundary they thought was real, so they can apply similar approaches to boundaries they face. But often your boundary violation doesn't reduce to transferable technique. You succeeded through combination of factors, perspective shifts, or approaches that don't translate easily to other contexts. This frustrates them because they want your achievement to be key that unlocks their own impossible. But boundary dissolution often requires context-specific innovation rather than generalizable method. The architects observe that vicarious possibility expansion is why they're watching you different. You're not just object of observation, but catalyst for transformation in observers themselves. By demonstrating that possible is larger than they believed, you've infected them with question about what other impossibles might be achievable, making every boundary they encounter potentially suspect. They watch you to see what impossible you'll make possible next, but also because each demonstration gives them language and permission to question impossibles in their own lives. You rewrote what possible means, and that rewriting applies potentially to everyone observing, making your achievement about possibility itself rather than just about specific thing you accomplished. Now the architects are revealing what makes rewriting possible so psychologically impactful. You've apparently triggered what they call paradigm flexibility recognition, where observers are forced to acknowledge that their mental models of reality are more provisional and revisable than they'd been treating them. Most people operate as if their understanding of what's possible is relatively accurate and stable. Constraints, they believe, are treated as facts about reality rather than as beliefs about reality. But when someone demonstrates that major constraint was actually just widely held belief, it reveals that cognitive map is not territory, that models of possibility require constant revision, that certainty about limits is almost always premature. This recognition is epistemologically unsettling, but also liberating. Consider what paradigm flexibility recognition means for how people relate to their own beliefs. Before your boundary dissolution, they could comfortably assume that things experts said were impossible. Probably were impossible, that boundaries they'd personally encountered were genuine limits, that their understanding of constraints was roughly accurate. After witnessing you achieve impossible, they can't maintain that comfort. They've seen that expert consensus can be wrong, that encountered boundaries can be overcome, that understanding of constraints can be fundamentally flawed. This makes all their beliefs about limits become provisional in ways that's psychologically demanding but potentially powerful. Watch how different people respond to paradigm flexibility recognition. Some become more humble about knowledge, claims, less willing to declare things impossible, more careful about distinguishing "I don't know how to do this" from "this can't be done." more explicit about uncertainty in their assessments. This epistemic humility is a healthy response, but creates discomfort for those who prefer certainty. Even if false to uncertainty that's accurate, others become almost nihilistic about constraints. If major boundary was illusory, maybe all boundaries are illusory. Maybe nothing is actually impossible. Maybe any limit can be overcome with right approach. This overcorrection treats your specific boundary violation as evidence that no constraints are real, which is equally wrong in opposite direction from believing all perceived constraints are real. A few achieve balanced understanding, recognizing that some boundaries are genuine, while others are belief-based, developing more sophisticated approach to evaluating which constraints are real versus arbitrary. These observers use your achievement as catalyst for better epistemology about limits, rather than just reversing from too certain about impossibility to too certain about possibility. Some experience anxiety from paradigm flexibility. If models of reality require constant major revision, how can they plan effectively or make confident decisions? The stability they felt from believing they understood constraints is disrupted by recognition that understanding might be fundamentally incomplete or wrong, creating uncomfortable uncertainty about what they think they know. The architects observe that paradigm flexibility recognition explains the almost reverent quality in how some watch you. You've demonstrated something philosophically significant beyond specific achievement, proving that human understanding of limits is provisional and that reality's possibility space is larger than collective models capture. They're watching you different because you've become embodiment of principle that boundaries are more permeable than generally believed, that possible is continually being expanded, that certainty about limits should always be tentative. You didn't just achieve something impressive, you demonstrated that achievement itself is less constrained than they thought. The architects are now analyzing what happens to competitive and collaborative dynamics when someone rewrites what's possible. You're experiencing what they call competitive framework dissolution, where previous bases for comparison and competition have become obsolete because you've moved into territory where normal competitive metrics don't apply. Most competition occurs within shared understanding of what's achievable. You compete to be best within known possibility space, but when someone expands that space by achieving what others thought impossible, comparison becomes difficult because they're operating in different paradigm where previous competitive frameworks no longer capture relevant dimensions of achievement. Watch how competitive framework dissolution manifests in how rivals relate to you. Those who previously competed with you directly are experiencing confusion about whether competition is even meaningful anymore. If you're doing things they thought were impossible, are you still competing in same game? Or have you essentially created new game with different rules? This confusion often leads to abandoning competition with you while maintaining competition with others, still operating in old paradigm, effectively conceding that you've transcended the competitive framework that organizes their efforts. Some competitors become students, recognizing that you've achieved something beyond their current paradigm. They shift from trying to beat you to trying to learn from you. This role transformation from competitor to student is itself acknowledgement of your boundary dissolution. Their admitting gap between you and them isn't just quantitative, you're better at shared game, but qualitative. You're playing different game they don't yet understand. Others refuse the paradigm shift, insisting that what you achieved isn't as significant as it appears, that you got lucky, that it's not replicable, that it doesn't really count for various reasons. This defensive denial protects their investment in existing competitive framework by rejecting evidence that framework has been transcended, but requires increasingly strained rationalization as your achievement's validity becomes undeniable. A few evolve their own paradigms, using your boundary dissolution as inspiration to question their own limiting assumptions, potentially expanding their own conception of what's achievable in ways that restore competitive relevance. These competitors recognize that competing with you requires not just working harder, but fundamentally reconceiving what's possible in their approach. Some redefine competition to exclude what you achieved, creating new metrics or categories where your boundary violation doesn't count, preserving competitive framework by essentially changing subject. This allows them to continue competing on terms they understand while avoiding having to process implications of what you've demonstrated about possibility. The architects observe that competitive framework dissolution explains why some watch you with mixture of awe and resentment. They're impressed by boundary violation while being frustrated that it invalidates competitive framework where they'd been succeeding. You rewrote what possible means, which rewrote the rules of competition in ways that advantage your approach while disadvantaging those who mastered old paradigm. They're watching you different because you're no longer comparable to others in their competitive framework. You've essentially created new category where you're currently sole member, making competition with you impossible until others expand their own paradigms to where yours already operates. Now something's emerging that the architects call documentation urgency syndrome. Observers who witnessed yours boundary dissolution are frantically documenting what you did, how you did it, what led to breakthrough, trying to capture details before they're lost or forgotten. Most achievements get documented, casually if at all, because they're understood as incremental progress within known frameworks, but achievements that rewrite what's possible trigger urgent documentation instinct because observers recognize they're witnessing potentially historic moment, not just impressive performance but paradigm shift that might be studied for years as example of how boundaries get transcended and possibilities expand. Watch how documentation urgency manifests across different observer types. Analysts are creating detailed case studies examining every aspect of your achievement, background conditions, preparation methods, decision sequences, resource allocation, timing factors. They're treating your boundary violation as puzzle to be solved, hoping that careful documentation will reveal transferable principles others could apply to their own impossible challenges. Some are focusing on biographical details, interviewing people who knew you before breakthrough, examining your developmental trajectory, looking for factors in your history that might explain capability for boundary violation. They're trying to understand whether rewriting possible requires specific background or whether anyone could potentially achieve similar paradigm transcendence under right conditions. Others are documenting reactions, capturing how different people responded to your achievement, how quickly or slowly they accepted that impossible had become possible, what resistance or acceptance patterns emerged. These reaction studies treat your achievement as natural experiment in how paradigm shifts happen, using responses to learn about human relationship to possibility and limitation. A few are creating real-time documentation, following you closely now to capture next boundary violation as it happens rather than reconstructing it after the fact. This prospective documentation reflects belief that you're likely to rewrite possible again, making continuous observation valuable for capturing process in ways retrospective analysis might miss. Some documentation has almost religious quality, treating your achievement as sacred text to be preserved and interpreted, looking for deeper meanings and universal principles encoded in specific details of how you violated boundary. This reverent documentation elevates your achievement beyond mere accomplishment to teaching about human potential and reality's flexibility. The architects observe that documentation urgency syndrome reveals that observers understand they witnessed something significant beyond personal victory, a moment when collective understanding of possible got expanded, when boundary got dissolved, when paradigm shifted, they're watching you different, partly because they're trying to capture and understand what watching you different means, using documentation to process the cognitive disruption your achievement created. You rewrote what possible means, and they're frantically writing down how that rewriting occurred because they sense that understanding your boundary dissolution might be key to enabling their own or others' future paradigm transcendence. The documentation is an attempt to bottle lightning, to capture and preserve whatever you accessed that allowed violating constraint everyone else accepted as real. Something profound is crystallizing now that the architects call recognition of achievement as permission. Your rewriting of what's possible functions as implicit permission for others to attempt their own impossible challenges, creating social license to pursue goals that would have seemed inappropriately ambitious before your boundary dissolution demonstrated that impossible is more achievable than conventional wisdom suggested. Most people constrain their ambitions not just by what they believe they can achieve, but by what they believe they're socially permitted to attempt. Pursuing impossible goals risks seeming delusional or arrogant if you fail, but your success at impossible creates precedent that makes attempting impossible seem reasonable rather than delusional, brave rather than arrogant. Consider how achievement as permission transforms social dynamics around ambition. Before your boundary dissolution, someone announcing intention to achieve what experts said was impossible would face skepticism, discouragement, perhaps ridicule. After your achievement, that same announcement can reference your precedent. If they could do thing experts said was impossible, perhaps I can achieve my impossible too. Your achievement doesn't guarantee their success, but it provides social cover for attempting, transforming ambitious pursuit from potentially embarrassing delusion into legitimate endeavor that might succeed based on recent precedent. Watch how different communities are using your achievement as permission. Entrepreneurs are attempting ventures previously dismissed as unrealistic, citing your boundary violation as evidence that expert consensus about impossibility might be wrong. Researchers are pursuing questions previously considered too difficult or too unlikely to yield results, using your example to justify resource allocation to high-risk investigations. Athletes are attempting performances beyond previous human achievement, motivated by your demonstration that boundaries are more permeable than believed. Some are explicitly invoking you. If you could achieve impossible thing, I can attempt my impossible thing, using your achievement as verbal talisman that legitimizes their own ambitious pursuit. This invocation treats you almost as patron saint of boundary violation, symbolic proof that impossible is achievable category rather than genuine limitation. Others are using your achievement without naming you. Cultural atmosphere has shifted toward greater acceptance of ambitious impossible attempting because your boundary dissolution has entered collective consciousness as evidence that constraints are negotiable. You've created permission structure that operates even for people who don't consciously know about your specific achievement, because idea that possible is being expanded has propagated through culture. A few recognize limits of permission. Your achievement proves some previously impossible things are achievable, but doesn't prove all impossible things are achievable, or that attempting impossible is guaranteed success. These observers use your achievement as measured permission to question specific constraints while maintaining healthy respect for genuine limitations, avoiding both excessive timidity and excessive hubris. The architects observe that recognition of achievement as permission explains why they're watching you different with almost hopeful quality. You're not just someone who achieved impressive thing, but someone who expanded what's socially acceptable to attempt, creating space for others to pursue their own boundary violations without being dismissed as delusional. You rewrote what possible means, and that rewriting grants others permission to attempt rewriting it further, creating potential cascade where your boundary dissolution enables others' boundary dissolutions, which enables still others in expanding web of possibility expansion that you initiated by demonstrating that attempting impossible is legitimate rather than foolish endeavor.